Today with me is Luay Mohsen, and as usual, good morning, good afternoon and good evening to everyone watching around the world.
Indeed.
Now today's show is a very unique show. We're going to be answering a lot of what I think is very, very good questions that were put forward. A lot of these topics are very unique in its nature, as many people haven't gone into haven't versed into the industry well enough to actually have felt the effects of these issues. Luay, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
Now,
Such a great pleasure again to join everybody here and have another session with our wide audiences on the NuGenesis network.
I know you had a bit of trouble coming in today, big strike here in New South Wales, no trains.
Tell me about it. Yeah, it's bumper to bumper. Basically, it took a very, very long time to drive over here.
Beautiful. Now let's start with this program. We don't want to take too much time. We will try to keep this program less than an hour long. So we're going to try our best. These are great topics, and we're going to start with questions.
Okay, question one. Mainnet versus testnet when fantasy meets brutal reality. So we understand that everyone needs to learn the hard way that a blockchain system that works perfectly in the testnet environment can fall to dust when applied in mainnet. So can you discuss some of the famous things that went wrong along the way in the transition from testnet to mainnet?
First, before Luay takes it over, let's just be very clear, guys. A blockchain is a ledgering system, right? It's only the ledgering system. There's a lot of things that are required for the ecosystem. The ecosystem is very different than saying a blockchain. So if you look at the NuGenesis network, the NuGenesis network is made up of a lot of blockchains, but even that's not even 10% of the core system. You've got a lot of integration, a lot of APIs, you've got a lot of software built in the back end that we utilize. So just be very mindful that just because a blockchain is in testnet, that doesn't mean the ecosystem is functioning or running. So we faced a lot of issues, and I'll let Luay take over, but I can tell you now, when we came out of testnet, it took us 3 months to get testnet to be really productive.
Absolutely.
Out of testnet to be very productive. Now, Luay, do you want to take over and explain a few things? I'm going to try to answer the question as best you can, but please not too long, because this is a very technical question.
Absolutely. No, definitely. I know this is very, very technical. I'll just try to highlight the actual the challenges that we faced basically when we moved on from testnet to mainnet blockchain eco environments. Conceptually, basically, the more we can, the more efforts we put on testnet is good, but still there is a degree of limitations as we moved on to mainnet, because mainnet is basically based on the real environment, the real processing speeds, all the interfaces, all the interoperability, the scalability that happens on mainnet in terms of coping with the load volumes and all the actual speeds of transactions. We faced a lot of issues at that point in time, basically, because, as I said, the way we thought testnets are going to be the environment, and we were very happy in our success points and going through all the actual technical checklist and all the actual volume testing. It wasn't enough, basically.
Now,
going to mainnet, yep.
Let's talk about neighbours. I mean, one of the biggest issues we faced was the AI.
Correct.
I mean, we're utilising dual layer of AI, and one of them is to monitor the nodes. Now, and I know that during testnet, I mean, you're really just testing the block. You're not really doing more than testing the blockchain.
100%.
So until you get out of mainnet, and I can tell you now, guys, it's absolutely nothing to do. Testnet, mainnet, major difference. All right, major difference. One of them, you're testing the blockchain itself, you're testing the functions of blockchain, and obviously when you're in mainnet, you're actually testing your whole system altogether.
Actually, that's a brilliant interaction with from your end, basically, and specifically talking about the machine learning that we need to redo on the environment that represents mainnet, basically. So that took a bit of a time, took a bit of a challenges until we improvised it, until we perfected that sort of implementation, because security is one of our main goals in terms of protecting our platform and all that.
Before we move on from this question, let's be honest, even mainnet, I mean, from deployment, to actually getting full functionality, I mean, it's a long journey as well. I mean, 100%. We've got a lot of issues in our front end that we're currently facing at the moment, which is all being resolved as we speak. But let's just be honest, I mean, it's a big journey. It's not a small journey from testnet to mainnet. I mean, it's taken us a year to get from what we thought was perfect in testnet to actually where we need to get to. Correct. So it's a big journey, and I mean, that's our team, and our team is what I consider to be probably the best technical team that currently exists on the face of the earth. But that's just my personal opinion.
Indeed, yes, please.
Just a follow-up question. Now, our friends in Solana are still in testnet. They're operational, they're functional, they've got layer 2 built on them. So what problems are likely to happen there?
Look, to be honest here, I think they're going to face a lot of problems when they start to integrate into mainnet, when they start building the actual ecosystem around what they require. There's a big difference between just saying we're on testnet, we're going live, but I think that's why testnet for them has taken so long. So I think what I presume or what I think they're doing is obviously running their main environments in the back end, building it, testing it, and the why it's taking so long is because they're facing these issues already. So while they've got testnet running, I'm pretty sure they're also working on their mainnet or their integration into mainnet and the ecosystem they require. But it's not an easy journey. I mean, I can tell you from ourselves, remember, we're pioneers in this industry. Most people don't realise this. I mean, we're 2013. Right? We designed our first blockchains before Ethereum even was out. I mean, M squared, G squared were even before Ethereum. Our pegging systems are not second to anything that currently exists on the face of the earth. I mean, I think we're the only ones in the world that actually have a pegging system blockchain. Right? And we'll talk about the importance of that a bit later on. But again, I mean, our journey has been very hard. I mean, it's taken us, we've done a lot of mistakes on the way. And this is all R&D, guys. Anyone that tells you they know this stuff, it's not true. There's no knowledge of this industry. This industry, I mean, everything we read from day one, I mean, even building the first Ethereum chain, even building what we consider to be the Ethereum upgrade chain, the Ether Plus chain, right? It's all very different. When you actually build it and test it and utilize it and you need large numbers and you need scalability, it doesn't work as they say it works. I mean, it was all R&D, a lot of mistakes, a lot of failed attempts, and it took us a long time to get it.
Okay,
correct. Actually, so I'll just add my comment. Sorry to interrupt you. With regards to Solana, I mean, they in terms of what they're doing, actually, I praise what they're doing because taking time is really sounding good, and I hope by the end of their terms, when they're ready to go to mainnet, they will not face what we have faced. I mean, the more you take time on testnet, the more probably you can face less obstacles. But the thing is, the great thing that we got out of that is a perfect learning curve in terms of where we have achieved what we have achieved, and all our experiences has been documented in terms of through our knowledge base basically, and they're available if anybody wants to use it as a thesis, as a research approach, etc., etc.
Okay, can we go from technical to a bit more business oriented? And that's looking at the problems of getting listed on exchanges, the torture that few have survived. Now, this question is more like an invitation to comment and expand on issues that NuGenesis has already raised in the white paper, which is, why do so many blockchains fail to survive the torture of getting listed on exchanges? Now, as we understand it, techies who excel at programming are not acutely aware of the business needs to provide liquidity to exchanges and find themselves without funds after they've put liquidity on the exchanges. Now that has a problem because it creates those who benefit, but the speculators, not necessarily the best technology. Now, you say in your white paper the reason NuGenesis created LedgerX as a decentralized fiat crypto exchange is so that projects that become part of the NuGenesis ecosystem have an automatic launchpad and access to capital to fund technical innovations. That is, that money goes to the best tech. Now, NuGenesis has gone this journey so that others don't need to. So can you tell us what problems you've learned that the others will now avoid?
Can I start with making a very clear statement just prior to that? Guys, we aren't claiming to have built the best blockchain in the world, and no one else has built something better than us. Let me just be very clear. There may have been a lot of people out there that have built something better than us, but none of us know about. In our journey, what we realised is this is not an industry about who's the best. It's the industry who's got the deepest pockets. So it's got nothing to do with having the best technology in the world. It's got to do that who supports you, who follows you, and who gives you money, and how much money you've got. So that's being very clear. The NuGenesis network was just the fortunate one of the networks who was able to survive. I use the word survive because it is very hard. And anyone that's building their own blockchains or working in the industry will tell you this is a very, very, very difficult industry. I mean, me and Luay speak to a lot of blockchain developers and a lot of people who have technology that blows our mind. I mean, it's incredible technology. And I can tell you now, none of them made it anywhere. I mean, some have gone to Uniswap and PancakeSwap and, you know, wrapped in... Imagine you having your own blockchain, complete blockchain, and doing wrapping on an ERC20 token or a Binance Smart Chain. I mean, it's absolutely insane. So let's just be very clear. This journey is very hard. It's very costly. I mean, let's just talk about basic intro into how you first get listed or get awareness. All right. And I'm going to be very clear and very open on here. All right, the cost of advertising. Let's just start with basicness, right? You build yourself this blockchain, you build yourself this network, and you're thinking to yourself, I can change the world, I've done so well, I can do this, I'm so proud of what I developed. Your first thing is you contact one of the newspapers, anyone. Let's say Cointelegraph, Bitcoin News, or Bitcoin, any of them, just you contact one of them. The first reply you get is, okay, who are you guys? Oh, we're new guys, we've done this, we've done that. Yep, we can't list you guys, we can't do nothing. We need you guys to have media awareness. So you ring up every media channel and they tell you exactly the same thing. So no one actually gives you an opportunity to go in. Then you find your local brokers will say, listen, you know, we've got access to these channels, we can get you on, but we'll charge you one Bitcoin, which is, you know, 80,000 Australian dollars or 70,000, depends what time, to do you a couple of listings. And you say, what do you mean 80,000 a couple of listings? Yeah, we'll charge you $80,000 for a couple of listings, but we'll guarantee you guys will get you on a couple of papers so you can eventually get onto the main pages. So to get your first news feeds is costing you a few $100,000. To get, I'm talking about if you're trying to go mainstream, right? I'm not talking about going into a podcast or doing something very small. I'm talking about actual media attention. We contacted many media channels, and in fact, the reason why the NuGenesis network ended up buying a lot of the media networks that we were utilizing and the social media channels is because we didn't want people that joined the NuGenesis network to fall through the same hardship. Because you require a few $1 million just up front to get standing. I mean, you're talking about innovation. The space of innovation should never have limitation. The day that innovation is limited is the day that we failed each other. All right, and this is why the LedgerX system and what we developed is very unique in essence. We understand the blockchain industry to grow. We can't have, please excuse the language, rubbish technology. We can't have someone to just say, that I support this chain, I want a meme coin just because someone follows or supports or pushes that meme coin. That's the future. I mean, if that's our limit, if that's where we've reached the point where we're willing to listen to somebody because they follow or want to support a meme coin so they can make money or anyone else can make it, we failed the industry. All right, the best tech should be making it. All right, and I've taken time on this question because it's hurt us so hard working in this industry, following footstep by footstep, seeing what people have gone through. I mean, you've got no, I know one of these questions about banking. All right, we're going to get to the banking aspect. You've got no idea. If anyone thinks the NuGenesis network is the only or the best network in the world, I promise you we're not. I guarantee you there are people out there, but unfortunately those people they're drowned, they're gone. All right, they can't survive. There's some tech that people were working on because of liquidity. I mean, there's some technology. I know, like Zaleika was one of sorry, the pronunciation might be wrong, was one of the promising technology. Right, a lot of technology was very promising, but unfortunately they lost them. Okay, put it this way: you jump on it, you don't know nothing about it. You think you've got tech, you've designed your blockchain, you've got coins, you've hit your first hurdle. They say, okay, we need liquidity to list you. What do you mean you need liquidity? We've only got 1 million or 2 million. Yeah, we need that to be able to list you, and then you start losing liquidity. You start giving out liquidity every. So by the time you actually get to capital raising, raising off the coin, you actually don't own much of the liquidity yourself. So yes, who's making money? The guys who first bought in. So your first well, I call them investors, and please, I don't mean it as an investor term. I just mean the first person who bought the coin, the second person that bought the coin after. They're the guys making the money, the uplift. Where the poor guys who worked their heart out and created the systems are now sitting with not enough money to finish the technology they first set out to do. All right, and even worse, you're on an ERC20. All right, you finished for tokens, you can't reissue tokens. You can't reissue. Imagine sitting in a company where when you need more equity, you have no way or ability to bring more equity into the company. Of course you're setting up the company to fail. And this is why the LedgerX system and even the crossover system, the bridges we built, were very important. And again, I do apologize for taking so much time. This topic I could speak about for a day. All right, no issue. It's insane. This industry is absolutely insane. I mean, guys, go look at the prices for marketing before we even get to liquidity. It's a crazy market.
Well, let's get even crazier and go into banking. So, why is banking for crypto projects so hard? Tell us your experience.
54 plus bank applications. 54. Okay, do you know what 54 bank application means?
I guess you're being a bit optimistic. I think a bit more.
Plus.
Plus.
But let's talk about, okay, each time you apply for a bank, the process. All right, anyone starting up in this industry, I can tell you now, you're not going to believe this stuff until you actually face it. All right, you have to get it all notarized. You have to send them over. Every single document costs you. Every single time you're paying the lawyers. Every single time you're paying costing. I mean, every cost is 2,000 to 3,000 euro per application.
Every application does not accept replicas. All genuine documentation. So that's the...
Yeah, and we're talking about the mainstream. We aren't talking about your little financial institutions that say they can help. But wait, no. It gets even better. You get to the point you think you've got it, everything's perfect. Then they find out, okay, what you want to do. And then they don't ask you up front. You send the paperwork and explain to them, it's an exchange, you're listing coin, A, B, C, D. They don't tell you no until you get to the last stage. Then they do know your business. At the end of the know your business, they come back and say, look, we're happy to give you the directors or the account holders to the individuals, but we won't give you accounts for the exchange or the business itself.
It is full of surprises.
Surprises is a lovely way to put it. So this industry is very hard. Banking is very hard. Now, why? Obviously, there's a lot of changes in law. There's a lot of issues with KYC, KYB. Now, let me just tell you something about the NuGenesis network. We use very advanced KYC. Very advanced KYC, KYB. So when we go to a bank, I can actually tell you, I know there's videos that we've got where the banks couldn't believe the systems we used. They were way beyond their systems. I mean, no. There is no comparing the two systems. All right, many times we met them and we still were not able to achieve the result. It took us a year and a half, or just over a year and about 2 to 3 months, to secure our first bank, which said obviously yes to all the conditions. And hopefully we've got a second and third bank finalising right now. But yeah, the banking it's incredible. I mean, how can you sell coin when you can never liquidate or have the money into your accounts? I mean, let's just say tomorrow we want to sell coins, and where do you receive the funds? They're just going to close up the accounts, and we've had a lot of accounts closed. I mean, PayPal. Let's go into PayPal integration.
Let's go to that. Yeah, all payment gateways. You had arrangements with PayPal, Stripe, and others to the point where we were proud to announce them. If you remember,
now, PayPal, the worst company I've had to deal with, and I say it openly, right, was PayPal. We spoke to them extensively. We spoke to their services. We went through it. We spoke to them about digital assets. Now, remember, the NFT platform is a digital platform, digital art platform. This is not cryptocurrency. This is digital art. Do not get mixed between cryptocurrency and digital art, because in essence the NFT platform has nothing to do or no relation to be a digital currency. All right, it's something you purchase using digital currency or fiat regardless, but it's not a digital currency. So in retrospect, we had a lot of meetings with PayPal and a lot of the PayPal main integration teams. And in early days, we were told that it sits outside of that. There were no issue, digital art, and in essence, digital art is being sold everywhere. Digital documents are being sold everywhere. I mean, what's the difference between selling a digital contract, right, getting paid by contract, or selling an NFT? All right, the difference is a company now saying that they want to dictate the law and put the digital art in its own retrospect. But what happened was they retracted 2 weeks after we commenced. I mean, can you imagine signing up and doing all the work, building the integration systems, doing the integration? I know Lui's team worked very hard integrating all the back end of PayPal. And then PayPal all of a sudden just decides 2 weeks later, no, the funny thing, Paul, you can't speak to anybody. You finish with them, you call them back, and they say, no, it's just new law that's come out, we've taken this direction, and won't change the direction. So yes, I mean, facing those issues has been insane. PayPal is one of the companies that I have to say was one of the most unprofessional companies to work with, and it was very disheartening actually working with PayPal. Now, another guys who I found really good who are trying to upgrade the technology to catch up is BitPay.
Yep.
Now, BitPay is a great company. Now, I know they're facing issues at the moment and trying to upgrade the technology to catch up, but at least they're doing something in the space. Right? So it's people like that.
They've been very punctual with us.
Correct. So they've already told us, they were on us up front, they said they're in the middle of upgrading at the time, but we're actually now integrating into a lot of different small payment gateways. But the sad thing is, I mean, this is digital mainstream, right? For banks to block you from having business, it's got to be somewhere. It just makes no sense. How can a bank dictate which businesses are allowed to operate and which are not allowed to operate? Because if you don't have a bank account, you cannot operate. Right, look, so a bit insane.
Huss, actually, that's a very brilliant point, basically, and I can see that there is a disconnection between upper management and some of these entities and their compliance area, where the decisions that are being made on the spot, unfortunately, do hurt a lot of other businesses. I mean, we would have preferred that a level of communication, a level of discussion, substantiate decisions made.
Correct.
On the premise of reality, not the premise of, oh, we don't want to deal with these people, it's the regulation. Come on. I mean, reach us, know who we are, know how we are regulated, know how we are basically compliant before you make before like such a decision. And I can see that as the way I see. Look, take ourselves. I'm not bragging about it. How us upper management and our compliancy and how we work together and how we have no gaps in that term and how we can address any matter. We would at least expect that sort of technical obligation, technical
now,
collaboration.
Just before you move on, I want to just make it very clear. We are working on a solution for the best tech to come in. We are not interested in letting, it's not a matter of memes, it's not a matter of a coin coming in. So you will find the NuGenesis network will never back or allow a technology to enter our network that does not deserve to be in the network. We will resolve these issues, and we have resolved the majority of these issues right now, right? But I want to make it very clear that this industry to grow, we must support the innovators in the space and not the people who just want to make a quick dollar.
Now, that's a good segue into the next one, which is up your alley.
But kindly, before you jump on to the other part, I just want to add to Huss's beautiful rundown on the aspect of the matter that was discussed. One thing that we just want to address as well, we really appreciate professional bodies in this industry who have collaborated with us, and we collaborated with them during our journey. And that's just a word of thank you to the people who have been very sincere. And I think in return we have also paid them back in terms of giving them the actual support that they required in their domains. That's something that was really appreciated from this aspect, because it's an open source industry.
Correct.
A lot of loose ends, and as you mentioned, 100%. Basically. So
which leads really well into the next question.
Absolutely. I thought just to mention that aspect.
Yes. Now this is the search for the best developers, right? So this question is basically an invitation for you guys to comment on how you built the dream team of the top blockchain and AI developers. So let me paint the picture this way. There is an international dev shortage. Most developers know this. But the high prices for developers is the least of the problem. The problem is that most who advertise as having skills don't have them. NuGenesis has had a huge turnover of developers. Only 1% are retained, I think you said.
It's actually less than 1%, yeah. Correct. We have
Okay.
less than 1% retention rate.
Correct.
Right, and the difficulty is not that you lose a developer, but all the work they've done up to that point, and you can't just have one person step into the shoes of another. So tell us about your issues in building the best dev.
Before Luay takes that over, I want to just make a couple of comments,
please.
and then Luay can take over.
Yeah, sure.
So, in terms of the retention rate, let me just be very clear. The retention rate is because we meet a lot of developers who are only limited to developing current blockchain systems. So there's no shortage of developers working on certain blockchains. The shortage is developers who can innovate. Right? So there's a very big difference. So because if someone says like Ethereum's got 200,000 prime developers, from what I understand, with 1 million people on the books, that's not an issue of actual developers. It's an issue of talent.
Quality.
So it's this area. Let's be very clear: is an R&D industry. All right, it is an R&D industry. It is not a mainstream industry. This technology is so new. I mean, even though it's been out 50s, 60s, 70s, all the way to 92, and then vice versa, it was only theoretical. It was only used very minimal. It was only until Satoshi decided to use the blockchain, obviously, in retrospect to create Bitcoin, that it became mainstream, 5-6 years ago. I mean, even that, 5-6 years ago, even then it wasn't really mainstream adoption. I mean, when did we hit the $1 trillion market cap? I don't think it was more than a year ago. I may be wrong, but time's gone pretty quick. But anyway, we found that innovation is what's lacking. There's heaps of Ethereum developers. You want an Ethereum chain, you want to wrap a coin, you want to do a wrap for anything, you'll find hundreds of them. But that's not innovators. That is like someone who develops a square wheel, and everyone else that comes knows how to build a square wheel, and everyone's just coming to make a bigger or smaller square wheel. All right, the issue that we faced was we needed innovators, we needed minds, we needed brilliance, we needed people who knew who wanted to try and actually achieve results based on R&D. All right, so based on that, we went out and actually recruited many of the best developers in the world. Right, and even at that instance, I know we're going to get, even at that instant,
100%.
We ended up retaining less than 1% of those developers, because it wasn't a matter of developer skill set, it was a matter of developers willingness to innovate. So a lot of the issues we face is people. I mean, remember the first conversation we had with the first developers? We told them we're building this network exactly the way we built it right now, and we were called lunatics. We said we were lunatics. That it's impossible.
They didn't believe in any of this.
Yeah. How can you integrate proof of authority with artificial intelligence? How can you have any AI working on validation or monitoring validation? I mean, how can you move from proof of stake? The biggest argument you're going to get, guys, is proof of work, proof of stake. Right? If you're going to commercialize an industry, and I guarantee you this, everyone that wants to go mainstream, don't care who it is, from Ethereum to any single person that wants to go mainstream, proof of work can never be a mainstream blockchain solution for speeds, right? For speeds. Now, if you're looking at Bitcoin being traded on centralized exchanges, sorry.
More to speed integrity.
It's correct. Integrity, speed, security.
Critical.
There's many. They say it's more secure. I mean, let's not even get into the aspect of security on that. All right. So you've got to understand, just because somebody says that it is the way it's happening, doesn't mean it should happen that way. Innovation is crucial in this space. Someone has to stand outside and say, no, this is no good. I mean, we look at real life application and how the blockchain industry can help the real life world. Yeah. So what we're going to do now, guys, as soon as we finish this question, we're going to break for a break, and we'll see you in part 2. So this is going to be the end of part 1, just because a lot of things have been said over this video. We're going to have a little break very soon, and we'll go to part 2. So we'll finish this question, and we will give you guys a break, and we'll do part 2 of the video.
Stay tuned.
So again, let's go on to, I mean, AI. I mean, I've gone through just personally. So me and Luay both look after different divisions in terms of developers. So we both look after different. What actually happens is we have our own recruiting team, our own recruiters. They actually they go through all the resumes. They pick the best candidates for the resumes, and then they come over to Luay, and then Luay goes over it again, and then Luay puts a recommendation forward. Let me just tell you, from the first application stage to the final application stage, from 100 developers putting in to actually passing a basic interview. I mean, questions like, how would you increase speeds in a blockchain? What would happen if we increase or decrease the block size? All right, we're talking about very, very, very basic questions. 99.5 plus don't know. Do not know. They know how to build Ethereum. They know how to replicate the Ethereum code. They know how to fork a blockchain.
Replication.
They know replication. This is the issue. So when we say a shortage, this is why you'll find ADA, Solana, a lot of the chains which have their own blockchains, which have their own systems, which have their own... And it's also one of the reasons why we actually decided to integrate the substrate framework within our frameworks as well. All right, so you've just got to know where the weaknesses, the strengths are. There is certain, and that's why even our network, we could source any blockchain and add it to the network. We aren't limited to a blockchain. So if someone builds a better blockchain for the NuGenesis network, that's an advantage. Because if we fork out that chain and we repair or we amend it to be more suitable for our chain, we can actually add it to our network to go forward. All right, so just that's a very important aspect. Now, I'll let Luay touch base on the rest, because Luay is the one that goes to the interviews. I just wanted to make that very clear to start with.
No, thank you very much, Haz. That's a substantial amount of information that you have provided on this aspect. I just want to add to it the elements where, as we did speak about developers and how our selection criteria has ended up, and how we learned as well in terms of getting the actual good selection criteria happening in our space. So developers at the end of the day, where they want to work in this industry, and especially in an industry that is embracing new technology, and also one of the challenges in this new technology, a lot of open source components, a lot of open source frameworks and libraries are used, which we take responsibility as to a degree of ownership in terms of providing the best outcomes. So that requires sustaining the attitude. I'm saying the attitude, not only the technical attitude,
Correct.
but doability and readiness to accept challenges, readiness to work outside the square, readiness to improve the current processes. And I'll be very honest, there is issues in open source, and everybody knows that, and that's not we're not it's not ever meant that we're looking down at the concept of open source, but we have fixed some bugs that have blocked us at a certain point in time. Unfortunately, we could not find enough resources or references to continue our journey. We took the challenge, we fixed it, we continued, and we have got brilliant results in terms of what we have achieved to bring our technology to the level it is today at NuGenesis. So everybody can understand that developers that we have been that have settled with us on a very good technical interaction and technical integration to our teams. Basically, they all carry a reasonable and a good number of common grounds, is that they are innovative, they take challenges, they never get blocked, or basically once they get blocked, they definitely take the initiative to unblock themselves, to do extra research in that area, go down to the granulated details of any core framework or library to break it ground up to find a solution. And now, we have been very, very successful on that aspect.
I want to bring up something which you touched on that. We started off with over 300 developers, and now we're down to about 36 to 40 main. I'm talking about core developers. I'm
core
talking
ones,
about
yep.
Right, core developers. Now, do you remember the first story? Our first team, just guys, this is what happens. I'm going to tell you what happened with us. We had a great idea. We had a basic of a design. So we went everywhere. Fever went every single website that you can go to, Upworks and wherever you go. And we bought ads everywhere. We paid for ads. We bought on LinkedIn ads. We bought everywhere.
Not to forget that we've been robbed.
I'm going to bring up, that's where I'm going to go, guys. I have to tell you, we've lost more money with developers just taking the money and giving us rubbish, or taking the money and not giving us anything at all. Right? No, you've just absolutely no idea. This industry, this is what I'm trying to say. Guys with great ideas, when they get stuck, think that they can just go out and find a developer. Right? Developers will take your money, they'll take your work. When they find it too difficult, will run. Because the problem with the innovation is not there. We had a whole team. I mean, I think it was 11 or 12 people in India. We went through the right process. We put the ads out there. We had a whole team in India working for us. And I can tell you now, they showed us brilliance. No. Let me just make that clear. Every month, in our monthly meeting, and our weekly reports, we said these guys are incredible until they were meant to deliver the product. They had no product. They were marketers. They ripped us. I mean, when I say they robbed us until they get to a point where even the websites they gave us, even the work they did, we could not even utilize. Even the code they gave us. I mean, a little kid would do better code than they gave us. So you will find that when this is why the journey took so long. So many people ask, why would this journey take so long? We designed it, right? We need help. I mean, building this network is very large. We're not a blockchain. I keep saying that. Very important. We aren't a single blockchain, and never will be. We're a network, an ecosystem. We're beyond an Ethereum ecosystem. We're beyond, if you were to compare, and I say this openly on this recording, if you were to compare all the integrated systems right now, and all the chains, all the blockchains, doesn't matter who they are, and you were to actually go on a technical analysis of the NuGenesis network, they wouldn't even stand next to the NuGenesis network. There is no way they could. And I know Luay loves the support. I'm just talking about pure technology versus technology. Right? We have a lot of problems. Don't get me wrong. We aren't finished. No. We are nowhere next to finished. In fact, we have just started this journey. All right? We have just started the journey. I mean, we're working right now on blockchain balancer systems, which will mean that even the idea of having speed limitations, all right, it's non-existent. I mean, there's no such thing. You can't limit your ideology to thinking 100 transactions a second is good, or 1,000 transactions. I mean, could you imagine the internet, and I keep saying that, imagine web applications or the internet having a limit on transactions per second of 1,500 transactions a second. Just imagine it. And what are you going to do? You're going to be Googling, and you're going to be sitting there waiting a week for your results or a month for your results to come back. All right, this is,
indeed,
it's absolutely insane. So the ideology in the market right now that a transactional speed is normal, it's not. There should never be an issue of transactional speeds. Your system, if it's designed with a limitation of transactional speeds or of waiting transactions wait, right? You've already failed the industry for the future. For today, it's fine, because right now most coins are exchanged on centralized exchanges. All right, so that's the truth of the matter. Right? You're not exchanging when you're going on an exchange and you're buying Bitcoin, you're buying anything. You're not actually utilizing the main network. What you're doing is you're utilizing a second network, which is the exchange, to transact. So let's just be very, very clear on that. So just back to the Indian story, right? We ended up closing that whole division. We ended up closing a complete division because what the result was when it came to passing over the code. So what they showed and what they presented was two different things. This is our early naive days. All right, and this is why when we say we've lost a lot of developers on the way, it's because a lot of the work that was given to us, and again, R&D, none of it was wasted because we only got to where we got to because of the mistakes we made. All right, but they're the mistakes we've made, and we want to help people that join us not make the same mistakes. But if it wasn't for our mistakes, we wouldn't be where we are today. Let's just be very clear with that. So let's wrap it up and let's get to part 2 next. Guys, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll come back with part 2 of this Ask Me Anything. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
See you guys soon.